What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
You're over there having a heart attack?
Basically, I haven't drank Starbucks in like... Okay, let me rephrase. I have drank Starbucks because they have their cherry chai, which with soy milk, which is so fucking
but that's
good.
not the same as their...
But it's not coffee, right? Because it's chai. It's not like it's tea, but it's not even real tea.
Yeah.
So I haven't had Starbucks coffee, like actual coffee, and I couldn't even fucking tell you how long. Today, because I'm trying to be better with my weight loss, but I bought Starbucks coffee today. That's supposed to be 90 calories, and it tastes good. But boy, oh boy, do I not miss Starbucks coffee.
They're iced coffees.
And I would say it's an iced coffee. It's not even espresso. It's an iced coffee.
That's why when I do Americanos, I get blonde espresso because their espresso is just too damn dark.
Well, and I used to drink in high school. Sometimes I would literally drink like a vanilla coffee with nothing, like maybe some Splenda to sweeten it up, but like no creamer or anything.
Gross. I can't do the coffee without creamer.
When I was in college, I used to drink Black Rifle with like 3 Splenda in it, and that's it. No cream or anything.
I don't know. I like the creaminess of the creamer. It's not even flavor. I just like the creaminess. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Side note: if you hear snoring, it's Fat Ass Olive, my dog.
She's just cuddling with me.
Cuddling with my mom.
Cuddling with her Gigi. Anyways, okay, so we're gonna touch on one thing real quick, and then we're gonna get into our story. I personally think that there is a serial killer in Portland, Oregon, because
they just found the
since
7th body.
April, they have found the 7th body coming out of the water.
The Willamette River.
Yes, there was like the whole thing that started this was there was a kayaker that went missing, I guess, and so they started searching, and as they search, they keep finding these bodies.
And another one.
Yeah, and so I'm like, I think there could potentially be a serial killer. A lot of people are like, no, they're just finding bodies. Well, how many bodies are you going to find in one water? Like, really? They all keep saying like, well, maybe it was accidental. 7 people accidentally ended up in the Willamette River. I don't think so. Let's just get into it, I guess, right? We are talking about a situation that happened in November of 1987 in Seattle, Washington. I don't know why
I just hate Washington at this
point. By
the
way, I literally randomly picked this one off of the internet. I genuinely was like Google searching, and this case popped up, and I was like, cool. And then as I started researching, I was like, why the fuck is Washington so shitty? Like Tacoma, Seattle. I swear we do a lot of Washington stories. But anyways, so this happened in Seattle, Washington, and a Canadian couple is actually murdered while visiting Seattle. So see,
that's even worse.
When I first looked at it, I thought it was a Canadian story. I mean, it is because the victims are Canadian, but like
that's about the closest to Canada they're getting.
Canadian to Canada?
Yes, I say Canada. I know it's Canada, but I say Canadian.
Yeah, I was like, I thought it was a Canadian story, and then as I dug into it, I was like, damn it, here we go, Seattle. Anyways, so the person that was held accountable for their murders actually wasn't discovered until 2018.
Good God.
And this person's name is William Talbott II. Okay, so that's who we're talking about, is William Talbott II. First, as per usual, we're going to do a background on the victims, and then we'll do a little background on William. So the victims are Jay Cook, who was 20 years old, and Tanya van Cuylenborg, who was 18. Now, they had met in high school. So they had actually just recently gotten into a relationship. Recently, as in they had been dating for about 6 months, but they actually had known each other since high school. So they've known each other for a long time. And they actually are taking an overnight trip to Seattle. They were from British Columbia, Canada. And what they were doing was they were going to Seattle to pick up parts. Now, I saw car parts or furnace parts. I don't know which one it really was, but basically, Jay's father has a business in Canada, and they were going to Seattle to pick up parts for his business. That's what they were doing. They left on November 18th, 1987. They were in Jay's father's 1977 bronze Ford Club van, so like one of the bigger vans, like a bigger, I don't know. We always call like the vans that you see when people like there's candy inside, like
creeper vans.
The creeper vans, but it was not creeper because it was like a bronzy color. And, like they have pictures of it.
So
it wasn't
creeper, but
it wasn't like
creeper.
The white van. So they left. That's where they did. They took the MV Coho ferry from Victoria, BC to Port Angeles, Washington. They drove southeast on Route 101 to Bremerton, Washington. And this is where they actually board a second ferry that's going to take them into Seattle. So for those of you who don't know how Washington works, when you're trying to get to Seattle, like
we're wild over here.
There's a lot of like ferries and
basically with Washington, with how it's broken up, is you have to, some of the islands you have to take ferries to.
Yeah. And
from to get to like Seattle.
Right.
To be able to go on like the main freeways and shit like that.
Yes. And so like I have a sister-in-law that when my husband and I went up to Seattle, we had dinner with her and she said it took her an hour to meet us for dinner because she typically would take a ferry, but the ferry to wait to get on the ferry takes so freaking long that she drove like literally took like the longest route possible to get to
like
us.
There's pretty much always an
you
alternate
can get
route.
Around.
It's just the easiest way
so
is the ferry.
There is ferries. So just so you know, that's why
there's a lot of ferries in Washington.
That is why. Well, and in northern Washington, there's not ferries really in southern Washington at all. So the couple was actually last seen boarding that ferry in Bremerton. That was the last time they were actually seen. Both of their families were concerned because neither Jay nor Tanya returned home on the 19th when they were supposed to, and neither family had any contact with either one of them. So they officially file a missing report on November 20th. So they literally waited one day until, basically 24 hours since they were supposed to be home.
Which is such bullshit in my opinion.
So, and they hadn't heard from her or whatever. So that's Jay and Tanya. Now, William Talbott II. So there is, as per fucking usual, there's not really a ton of information about William in particular. And if I'm being honest, there really wasn't much background information in this case at all. Not a lot on Tanya, not a lot on Jay, not a lot on William. However, I can tell you that William Talbott was 24 years old when Jay and Tanya went missing. And now later in life, William actually claims that he could never have done these crimes because he's not a violent person. Now, this is what he says.
I already called bullshit and I don't even know what's about to happen.
He says, I'm not a violent person. He said this in court, after he gets caught. He's like, I'm not a violent person. I absolutely could not. I couldn't have done this because I have gone my entire life as a passive person. I have never raised my hand towards anyone. And he also stated, I literally never get angry. Okay, so this is what he's trying to claim.
I didn't realize he was an angel.
I know, right? Because who in the fucking world never gets angry?
Bro, if you could not get angry,
my life would be great.
Bravo to you, my guy.
Now, this is a very different version of himself than what his family has to say, though. His family. The people who know him, who raised him and grew up with him. Now,
and fought the motherfucker.
And according to his younger sister. So he has two sisters that I know of. His youngest sister said, no, as a child, as a young person, he had a lot of anger issues. He seemed angry a lot. But I thought he said he didn't get angry.
That's because the ones that get angry don't say they get angry.
She also said that he had actually kicked her a few times with boots on when she was younger. And she said that she had even had to call the police on him before. She said that he felt that life owed him something. And she continues on and tells of a specific time when William was 11 years old and she was younger. So 11 years old, he had actually gotten into a physical altercation with his father, who was disabled from a motorcycle accident. And at 11 years old, he got into a physical altercation with his father, who had been disabled in a motorcycle accident, right? Now, his father says that his late wife, so William's mother, had actually tried to get William and his sisters counseling. And the reason she had tried to put them all in counseling is because William had these really angry outbursts within the whole entire family. So it really fucked them up. And so the mom had actually gotten them all counseling. Again, doesn't sound like you didn't get angry. Now, the counseling did not help him at all, though, according to his father. So at the age of 16, he allegedly told his father that he was going to run him over with the car as soon as he got his license. Again, doesn't sound like you aren't an angry person.
Also, he's already disabled. That's fucked up, man.
Right? Another one of his sisters says that she actually suffered injuries to her hands from William as a young person. She also said that he beat her up and broke her tailbone at one point. She said that this happened when she was 15 and he was 17. And it was because she had lowered the music in her room and he basically went in there and said, I want the music louder. She said no. So he beat the shit out of her and it ended up breaking her tailbone. And she was taken to the hospital for this incident. So there is record that she went to the hospital for this because, you know, he's never raised a hand to anybody his entire life. Now, she also had stated that William molested her when she was 11. And it was also talked about how he had actually dropped the family cat in a well.
Damn.
So this
I don't
overall,
even like cats, but fuck.
so overall, it sounds like
Poor
he
cat.
had like some serious violence in his childhood.
He needed the damn rubber band on his wrist.
He's not really a passive person, I don't think. I think he's full of shit when he tried to say that. But other than this information, there really is not much to say about William's like younger self. So they found all this information out about William after they arrested William. They went and arrested him and then contacted his family. And his family was literally like, he hasn't talked to us for years. Like, but
I wonder why.
He was estranged from his family. So it's like, but they're willing to say a whole different side of the story of who he is. Right. So I think he's not who he says he is.
Well, so you're getting committed for murder. So
and it's
I'm gonna assume that the family's telling the truth.
Well, and just wait till you hear how he gets caught or you know why it's him. So this brings us to November 24th of 1987. So remember, Jay and Tanya were missing as of November 19th because they were supposed to be back home. A missing persons report is filed on November 20th. And then on November 24th, 4 days after the missing report comes out, the body of Tanya is found. She's half naked. She's in a ditch by a rural road in Skagit County, Washington. She has been raped and she has been shot in the head. Now, initially, Jay is actually considered the suspect because she was found and he was not there. So initially they're like, okay, well, she was traveling with her boyfriend. So now we're going to be looking for this Jay guy because obviously that's the most
Makes me think of like
subject.
the Gabby Petito.
Now, both families were adamant that he would never have done anything like that and that there's no way he was responsible and that they need to be looking at somebody else for this murder. Now, the following day, Tanya's wallet and keys are found near a Greyhound bus station in Bellingham. The Ford van was found a few blocks away from there. So now they've got Tanya's body, her wallet, her keys, and the van that they literally were traveling in, and still no Jay. There's no Jay. And so now they're even kind of like, come on, like, why is he not around, right? Now,
and there's no evidence of like, oh, his wallet's there too.
Exactly.
Or, you know.
So inside this van, there's plastic ties that were the same ties that were used to bound Tanya. So now they're like, okay, something happened and this van contains evidence that leads directly to right. It also had plastic gloves and various receipts, including the one from the Bremerton ferry. So by the receipts in the van, they were able to kind of place where they had gone. Now, it was also noticed that she had brought a camera with her and the camera was missing, and actually the camera's never been found. So that was one thing that they were like, okay, so we found her keys, we found, you know, her body, her wallet, but the camera, like, where's the camera? Now on November 26th, so this is 2 days later, 60 miles away from where Tanya's body is found, Jay's body is discovered. 60 miles. Like that's a long ways away. Now, he had actually been beaten and strangled. And there was a pack of cigarettes that were shoved down his throat, which I don't ever understand why people do that kind of shit. So obviously this takes Jay off the table as somebody who fucking killed her. And now he's become, instead of being a person of interest, he is now also a victim. Now, the police actually believed at that time that the killer was almost taunting the police at that point because they were like, the police,
like the breadcrumbs.
The police were like, the killer left behind gloves. They left behind cigarettes that they shoved down Jay's throat. All these things that potentially could, you know, lead to clues, right? Then Detective Robert Gibo from the Seattle Police Department actually said he leaves those behind as a sign to the police that you don't need to look for fingerprints because I wore these gloves, and he has confidence that there's nothing that's going to connect him with these crimes. So they're sitting there going, this guy left all this shit behind and they can't really correct if he's got gloves on, you can't find fingerprints. And he's telling them that by being like, oh yeah, I left these gloves in here. And by the way, just so you know, I wore gloves. So nothing on these people's bodies will, you know, relate back to me.
I've always thought about with gloves, though, you're really telling me you can't flip the glove inside out and get a fingerprint from the
Probably
inside?
not from the inside, depending on the type of glove. Because, like, I don't think, like, if it's cloth. Well, even not that. Like, when you're wearing them, your fingers probably don't fingerprint. But what I always think of is, can't you get DNA? Because my hands get sweaty as fucking gloves. Like, you can't get some DNA off them fucking.
Yeah.
But this is the 80s.
That's true.
So they don't have the DNA technology in the 80s that we do now.
We do now, yeah.
And so the police, though, they search everything. They do actually, in the van, they do find DNA.
Dinner.
They do. So they do collect that. Now, at this time in the late 80s, they could do DNA stuff, but it was nothing like what they do now. So basically, they would collect the DNA, they'd put it into their system, but their system only pertained to criminals. It was just a criminal database. They didn't have all the shit that they do now. So they put it into the criminal database and they find 0 matches. No matches to any criminal that could potentially have been in the database. So to them, I guess it rules out like pedophiles and things like that. And
right.
Let's not forget that in the 80s anyways, if you went to prison, it's not like you were required to give DNA samples, right? So they didn't have they just had DNA samples from people who they had taken DNA from before. Now, another thing that they had concluded was that based on the manner of the crime and specifically how the couple was killed, which by the way, they never released publicly. They released it in the trial, but publicly they never released specifically how they were killed. But they said based on the crime and how they were killed, they believe this person had been to jail before. So I don't know what, maybe it was the cigarettes down the throat. Maybe that's a thing in jail. I don't know. But it was based off how this crime occurred and the murders occurred and how they were murdered made them believe this person had been to jail before, which is also why they checked jail database with DNA and had no matches. Now, this led them to believe that the suspect was familiar with the prison system, which, again, they find that since there was no DNA on file, it meant that possibly the person responsible was in prison before data collection began. Because, again, they do data collection now. And I think even in the early 80s, and in the 80s, maybe not early, but I think in the 80s, they were doing DNA collection for their database. But what their point was is this person obviously has been in prison based off the crime, but most likely they were in prison before we started taking data or taking DNA from people inside the prison. And so they're like, but we still think it's somebody who was definitely had gone to jail. Now, it was thought that the couple had met their killer on one of the ferries and then was offered a ride. They actually think it was the Bremerton one. They think that they met him on that ferry and he was like walking. Because for those of you who don't know about ferries, you can drive onto a ferry. If you don't know what a ferry is, I guess I should say a ferry it's a boat, a humongous boat that you can drive your car on or walk on. And then it brings you to like across like
it's a
waterway.
Way of transportation.
It is, but it's not like some ferries are really
not like
slow.
A sailboat with a fucking sail on it.
No,
it's
huge.
Big ass not electric. Well, no. I guess.
Well, it's just a big ass. It's a big ass boat that has. I mean, some ferries. Some ferries have like double decker ferries. Well, I'm saying it because I don't think like in other countries they might not have anything like that. So I'm trying to explain it.
That's what I'm saying. If you look up a ferry,
if you look up ferry, it's going to be Tinkerbell.
No, okay, it's spelled Ferry.
Exactly.
Not Fairy.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Look up Ferry, and then you'll know what the fuck we're talking about.
That's what I was saying. Is if you look up just ferry, it's going to look like Tinkerbell. But if you look up the other word,
I'm sure if you were to accidentally put ferry like that and then boat after it,
sure,
it would show
but
you a ferry
maybe
boat.
people don't do that. Anyways. So they're on the ferry. They think that they met him on the ferry, that he was like a walk on ferry rider. And then they were like, oh, well, we're heading to Seattle. So if you need a ride, like, come on. Because again, back in the 70s and 80s, people were hitchhiking.
They were right.
Exactly. They were like,
people still hitchhike.
Yeah, they
now.
do. Creeps me the fuck out.
And I look at them and I go, do you not listen to true crime?
First of all, I'm not picking up nobody that's hitchhiking because I worry you're going to kill me. And also, I'm not hitchhiking.
It's not if you're a guy or girl. It's just the fact that you're a fucking person
Absolutely.
trying to hitchhike.
And also, I'm not hitchhiking because I'm afraid you're going to fucking kill me. So, I'm just walking. Thank you. Now, in the months following Jay and Tanya's death, both families actually received a series of greeting cards that would describe the murder graphically to them. The greeting cards were postmarked from Seattle, Los Angeles, and New York because they had, a ton of them. They also, it was confirmed they were written by the same person because the handwriting matched on all of them. Now in 2010, they actually confirmed that they found the author of the cards. And it was a 78-year-old Canadian homeless man with mental health issues. However, it was discovered he had nothing to actually do with their murders. So he took their story, pretended like he was the killer, and wrote this family multiple letters detailing a murder that he actually didn't know about because he had mental health issues. However, April 11th of 2018, we love this. The police send the DNA that they had collected in 1987 to none other than Parabon Nano Labs. We've talked about them multiple times. And what they were doing with this is
that corporation genuinely changed the fucking game.
They absolutely did.
So bravo, left and right, fucking bravo. Applause to you.
Now, what they were looking for was a snapshot DNA phenotyping. And again, we've seen that too, where it creates a composite sketch of the person based on their genetic markers in their DNA. So it comes up with this sketch of what this person could look like based off how their DNA looks. Parabon also used that genetic genealogy to look for familial matches. So they upload the DNA to the gedmatch.com, which we have seen before. And again, this is the same thing that helped them actually discover who the Golden State Killer was, literally by doing the gedmatch.com. Now, they are able to make a link that William is a possible suspect through 2 DNA samples that had been submitted by his cousins. 2 of his cousins had done a DNA, what is it called? What is the
23andMe?
Thank you. Like a 23andMe or some sort of, which by the way, this is off the topic real quick, but 23andMe, I think it's 23andMe, is shutting its doors. And if it is, one of these sites, I'm pretty sure it's 23andMe, is bankrupt. They went bankrupt. And if you are somebody who has done a DNA match through 23andMe, you can actually go onto their website and tell them to delete your DNA. And if you don't, whoever buys 23andMe gets it. So keep that in mind. If you have done, look it up. One of the companies, I'm pretty sure it's 23andMe, went bankrupt, and you have only a certain amount of time to delete your DNA off their website. I wanted to make that clear because it's not that, whatever, but if somebody buys yes, it is 23andMe. Okay. So if somebody buys 23andMe that's not wanting to do good things with your DNA, because like if some billionaire wants to be an asshole, they can take your DNA and do whatever they want with it. So you might want to delete it. Anyways.
Bro, they could figure out how to clone you.
Probably. So let's just get your DNA.
You don't want another website.
Me.
You don't want another me out there.
I don't, because it would probably be even more evil than you are. Have you never seen Pet Sematary? Jesus.
No shit. Yeah, no shit.
So they do. They find that there's some familial matches, right? Well, investigators find out who this man is because he's one of the potential suspects. And they start following him around. Now, at this time, he is a truck driver. And he literally, I don't know if it's local or whatever, but he drives like trucks. They follow him. And one day, he gets out of his truck, does something, gets back in, and a coffee cup falls out of his truck and he drives off. So the police fucking swoop in and they say, let me take that coffee cup. They take the coffee cup. They swab it for DNA. They send it to the labs, and ching-a-ling-a-ling, it matches the DNA that they found in this crime scene in 1987. 99.999, it's his DNA. So on May 18th, 2018, the Snohomish County Sheriff announces that William Talbott II has been arrested for the murder of Tanya. Now on June 2019, he's actually found guilty on 2 counts of aggravated first-degree murder, and he is sentenced to 2 life sentences without parole. Now,
good.
End of story.
Oh, but it's not. I can see by your fucking face.
This is a ringer.
I fucking swear to God.
Oh, yeah, you are. On December 7th, 2021, an appellate court overturned his sentence.
What the? Sorry for all your ears if you're listening.
Overturned his sentence and conviction, citing juror bias.
Fucking juror bias? There's almost 100%
DNA
match. What the fuck?
I know.
Oh my God.
So here's what happened. There was a woman. She was known as Juror 40. She had been...
Fuck you, Juror
40.
No.
No. It's not Juror 40's fault. Just hear me out here. When you go to do jury duty, Each side, so prosecuting and defense attorneys have the right to question every single juror. And they typically ask you questions that pertain to the case without giving away the case details. So for instance, juror number 40 was a woman. So they ask her things like, could you be unbiased because you're a mother? And could you be unbiased about a crime against a woman, right? And she had said repeatedly, I don't know if I can be unbiased because I'm a mother. And my daughter, I could picture this being my daughter. She also said, I also don't know if I'm going to be able to be unbiased because I actually am someone who has experienced violence against myself and other women. And I don't know how unbiased my opinion could be of somebody who killed a woman, right? Repeatedly. She was asked by both sides, defense and prosecuting. And she willingly said she could not have an unbiased opinion, most likely. And they kept asking, like, do you think there's a chance that could change? And she goes, I honestly couldn't tell you. Now, typically when that happens, what do they do? They would dismiss this juror. Either side has the right to say, I don't want juror number 40 because right? They have a right. They didn't do that. So as soon as this whole thing came about, the prosecutors, as soon as this was overturned, they started planning to do a second trial because they were like, well, first of all, he wasn't found not guilty. It was overturned, which means he could be tried again. So they were like, fuck it, we're going to try him again. But they also brought this.
I thought you couldn't try somebody for the same crime.
He wasn't found not guilty. It's only if you're found not guilty. His crime was just, his sentence was overturned, but which just means that something happened in his court process that made it to where his court or his, whatever, like for that, they're saying the juror, because she was not because they were saying that she was biased, that no matter what they would have presented, she would have found him guilty.
See, but even if they would have found him not guilty, I was just thinking, I know that he was charged on 2 counts, but I remember you saying it before that it was just for Tanya.
Well,
so technically they could have tried again.
But I think they tried him.
Right?
No, I think they tried him for both. Because he ended up getting 2 life sentences. So I think they did it for Jay. But
regardless, it was overturned.
Not found not guilty. Right. So they were already like, okay, we're going to plan a second trial. And then they also were like, we're also taking this to the Washington Supreme Court because we think that you guys, this judge that overturned it, you're full of shit. So they go to the Washington Supreme Court and they're like presenting what they, hey, this isn't fair. And the Washington State Supreme Court actually reinstates his guilty verdict. They basically say, no, you are guilty. And their reason is,
nice try, bitch.
Because they said the defense had a peremptory challenge. And what that means is that they could have dismissed that juror at any time throughout the trial. Not only, but at any time for no reason. They're each side of the trial, each side, so both prosecuting and defense attorneys, they all have the ability, they have a certain number of jurors that they can dismiss for no reason. And they had all of them. They had not used any of those they both have a certain number that they can dismiss for no reason. Because if you dismiss a juror, sometimes you have to have a reason, but there's a certain number that you can just dismiss because you don't like their face. Like literally, you could look at somebody like, I don't fucking like your face.
Juror for a murder.
So I could never. I could never, because I can tell you right now, I think I would have a hard time being unbiased. I do, but at the same time, I don't want to
be on the Brian Kohberger one. Actually,
see, I would not, because the Brian Kohberger one has so many holes in it. I don't think I could. I don't think
True.
Based off of the shit that they're telling me, there's so many questions around it. I don't think I could in good faith say 100% somebody's guilty. You know what I mean? In that case,
Ted Bundy, Charles Manson. That's been kind of
if cool. You got DNA evidence, sign me up. But I would have a really hard time. I think I would have a really hard time sentencing somebody if there's not real hard proof. Yeah. This guy, I would have 100% sentenced him. Like, that's done. So they said the defense had the opportunity to dismiss this juror for no reason at all, and they chose not to. Therefore, you're not allowed to appeal this case because you guys let your client down by not dismissing that juror when you had suspicions from the beginning that she was going to be a biased juror. And also, let me point out, that's 1 out of 9 people. But in our world, one person who says, no, I don't think they're guilty is enough to cause a mistrial to where they have to be retried again because it has to be unanimous. The jury has to be unanimous. And so that's what their whole thing was. And actually, one of the prosecuting attorneys for this case had actually said what we think they were doing is that they purposely let her stay on the jury to cause this exact thing. To literally, oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I lied. What they said was, they said one of 3 things happened. They said, 1, somebody forgot to dismiss her, like on the defense, like the defense's people. They like all of them knew that she was supposed to
like
be
somebody
dismissed,
fucked
but
up
they forgot.
And didn't do it.
Right. Number 2, they did it on purpose so that they could try to get this, redone. And they said, or number 3, which they think is what really happened, is that they didn't think that there was enough evidence to be, which again, fucking DNA, bitch. But they didn't think there was enough evidence in the case to really make him guilty. And they didn't think it was just going to be one person. Like they didn't think they'd have to even worry about having one person be the offset number. So to this day, William Talbott II is currently serving his sentence, but he is still working on appeals. And he is serving at Walla Walla State Penitentiary, and he is right now 62 years old, still in Walla Walla State Penitentiary, but still trying to find a way to get out. Now, this is William's statement. Like, he maintains that he's innocent, and this is his statement. Imagine yourself somewhere. Okay, hold on before we get into this. Please listen to what this fucking man is trying to say.
Okay, wait. I'm gonna follow what he says. Okay, go ahead.
Imagine yourself somewhere, anywhere, and you experience a nosebleed, or you cut yourself on something sharp, and you leave some blood or other sources of DNA behind. Later, maybe that same day, maybe days later, and unknown to you, there is a violent crime committed at that very same spot. Based on Snohomish County's way of thinking, the only possible suspect is the source of that blood, regardless of the evidence or lack of.
Well, I hope there's not a crime like that in Disneyland. So that's where my brain went.
So here's the part that bothers me about this. So he's basically saying
that DNA is not
that his DNA
good enough
was found inside the van because
inside. Let's not forget about that.
Because he was in the van.
Inside.
Maybe he was in the van because he went with them somewhere. Something happened and his DNA ended up in the van, and that's the only person that could have killed these people.
Wait, is he trying to say he got a nosebleed?
So that's the thing.
Like,
the DNA they found was semen on Tanya's pants. That's not nosebleed,
and she
bitch.
Was raped.
Yeah, that's not nosebleed, bitch. That's not a cut, bitch. That is you literally raped her.
Maybe he's got
and
multiple
left
personalities.
Your fucking shit behind. So no, sir. And we all know that this man is a liar because look at the way he portrays himself and then compared to what his family says. But that was the part when I read that's the only reason I put his statement in here, because when he tries to say, which is why when you hear him say, you have blood, you leave some blood or other source of DNA behind. Mm-hmm. Yeah, bro, you left semen. Like your DNA matched 100%. Well, basically 100%. And it was not a nosebleed, brother. Not a cut, son. It was literally that you raped this woman and you accidentally got some shit that was left on her jeans that were found in the fucking car, in the fucking van. So no, sir, this isn't a mistake. And yes, Snohomish County does think you did it, because why the fuck is your shit on her pants in the van that was abandoned after both people were murdered? That's the only explanation, sir. And if I was on the jury, absolutely, sir, you would be life sentences because we don't do the death penalty here. But again, he's the kind of person that I wish we had the death penalty for, because no accountability, doesn't want to admit that he did it, knows that he fucking did it, solid ass fucking evidence that you did it, and you can't even fucking man up and say you did. those are the people that deserve the death penalty.
Oh, he kind of looks like a murderer. I'm
Isn't
not gonna
he?
lie.
He totally does.
He's not even scary. He definitely looks like he's got anger issues.
Absolutely, he does. So, anyways, that is the story of William Talbot II, who thinks that he is innocent of a crime that his DNA was found all over. So, not.
Oh God, I'm seeing a picture of when the actual crime happened.
Yeah.
He's even creepier then.
Yeah.
Gross.
Yeah. So. But, okay, so see, it was a twisty one. This was a twisty one. Still with a good outcome, but it was twisty because he got out. I'm not kidding you, Sierra. I was literally searching it. And when I saw that he got released out or that he got overturned, I was like, motherfucker. Like, I was literally halfway through researching it when I read the article about his shit getting overturned. And I was like, I'm not doing one where he got out for, like, I'm not. And then all of a sudden I saw another one that, in 2021, he was reinstated. I was like, oh, thank God. Because I was not trying to do this shit. I was not trying to 2022, it was reinstated. So you figure, even though this crime happened so long ago, this is a really recent case of somebody who recently got caught. So anyways, that's William Talbot. So if you like what you hear, if you like the things, as I always say, follow us on the socials. Thanks for joining us, and I'll catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye, bitches.